Okay, so this video is about obesity. I got into an argument with somebody on the Quora website about obesity. They were saying it was just a problem with people eating too much and they should stop eating. Well, it's really a medical problem, actually. There are medical issues. Obesity is fairly common when somebody's in the 40 or 50s years of age. People start putting on weight because they start slowing down. One of the things I mentioned in a video I did on sarcopenia was that there's a lot of muscle loss. And how does this affect things? Muscle burns a lot of energy. So if you have less muscle, it means you're also burning less energy. Well, if you're eating about the same amount of food, you basically are going to wind up putting on weight, because with the loss of muscle, you're not burning as many calories. And so if you take in the same number of calories, it means you're going to put on weight. Calories in, calories out, that's the key to weight, basically. So what can you do with this? You have to exercise. Exercise will build muscle. It'll also burn more calories and kind of keep up with the fact that your metabolism is slowing down. Now, another thing that goes along with this is the fact that fat is an insulator. Fat retains heat. So when you have somebody who is, let's say, 100 pounds overweight, and they got all this fat on their body, it's just like they're wearing a winter coat. As a matter of fact, when I was 50 pounds heavier, I remember there was a day that I was making rounds at the hospital. It was, icy cold on this winter day, and yet I was wearing a coat that's not much heavier than this blue coat that I'm wearing right now, because that big tummy of mine kept me warm. And so I didn't want to wear a heavy winter coat because I'd be sweating. So I wore a nice light coat, and I even left it unzipped and open because the belly was sticking out. It was hard to close, and also the belly kept me warm. So fat keeps you warm. How this works out is this: 75% of the average person's calorie intake is spent just maintaining the body temperature of 98.6. So if you have a body that's mostly muscle, and muscle is mostly water, it's easier to lose the heat than it is if you have a body that's mostly fat, which is an insulator and retains the heat. So people who are overweight have to fight hard to try to get the weight down, because they're basically retaining all that heat, and so they don't need a lot of calories. And if they eat just an average size meal, it might be too many calories for them. The way that this works also is a math problem. In math, if you take the surface of a sphere, it goes according to the radius squared. If you take the volume of a sphere, it's according to the radius cubed. Now, if you have a radius that's one squared and one cubed are both the same. They're both one. But now raise it up to the radius of 2. 2 squared is 4. 2 cubed is 8. So all of a sudden you see that the cube is rising faster than the square. So then you go to, let's say the square of 3 is 9. The cube of 3 is 81. Okay, these numbers are starting to spread apart. How this effect goes is that if you have a tiny little mouse with a tiny volume and a lot of skin surface, that mouse has to eat all the time to stay warm. A hummingbird is supposed to eat about every 10 minutes, otherwise it'll get cold. And like I said, the tiny little mouse or shrew, if they don't eat about every 10 minutes, they're going to get cold and they'll have problems. Could even die. So they're constantly eating something. Now take the opposite end of the spectrum, the lion. There have been noticed in some of the observations that a lion will say kill a gazelle, eat a whole bunch of meat, maybe 30 or 40 pounds, and then they basically go to sleep for a few days because they really don't need to eat again. They have this huge mass, and they have the volume that's more than the surface area, as opposed to the mouse, who has more surface area than the volume. This is the opposite end, where you have this huge animal and the animal's retaining heat. As a matter of fact, they have to sit in the shade because even the sun's heat makes them too warm. So, they're constantly doing that kind of a problem. Now, somebody who, again, is overweight, they got that problem. I mentioned that I would wear a winter coat. Same thing. Too much fat retains the heat. Too much skin surface area expels the heat. So if I was skinny, I could eat anything I want. And when I was that way, when I was in high school, yeah, I could eat whatever I wanted to because I was tall and thin, and I didn't have a lot of weight, and so I just ate anything I felt like it because I'd never had to worry about my weight. Okay, so there are some things like this that you have to consider. Now, because of what I'm talking about here, if there is somebody who's like 400 pounds, really don't care how tall they are, they're overweight, obese, morbidly obese, okay? So at this point, this person, because they have so much fat, they have everything that's against them. I have recommended for people who are over 400 pounds that they consider getting a gastric bypass surgery. The reason is that I don't think that these people are going to be able to do too much. They really can't exercise at that kind of weight. When you're throwing around 400 pounds, it's very difficult for you to consider exercising. Usually you're doing a good job if you're still walking. And so these people, they can't try to exercise every day to try to lose weight. They basically, can try to diet, but because of the fact that they are having so much insulation, it's tough for them. So gastric bypass surgery is one of the answers that they may have. After doing the gastric bypass, they can lose significant amounts of weight, maybe even 100 pounds, get themselves down to a point where they can exercise and start getting the weight off naturally. They have shown that with gastric bypass surgery, losing the weight, people add 15 years of life to their lifespan. So that's kind of another hard truth, is the fact that people who are massively overweight don't live too long. They develop a lot of medical problems, and in many cases have a shorter lifespan than the average person. So, you can go ahead and fat shame some of these people, but you're not being fair, I can tell you that.